And it will be interesting to see how our severe weather season really gets going and continues, because we've had such an explosive start. Now, there's not a lot of data to support, does that dictate the rest of your season? So honestly, we could be for anything as we go into May, which statistically is the peak of spring severe weather season. As we look at the middle part of this week, that's kind of the next dial up here, where we're concerned about the Central Plains. And these are going to be areas that are no shocker, you know, central Oklahoma, parts of Texas. You know, we just have the systems that come in from the West Coast. They continue to push across the Rockies. And then we have this classic setup with our dry line. So if you're not familiar with the dry line, you know, we have all this dry, dusty air in the Southwest. And that's really why we have traditional tornado alley. You know, it's that mix up of having that dry, dusty air coming in from the Southwest and its interaction with the Gulf. I mean, right now, our dew points, which is how we measure how much moisture is in the atmosphere, around 60. 54 currently in Waco. So, you know, you have that comparison to Roswell, where our dew point is 17. Those are two very different air masses, and that's what creates that clash and allows for those thunderstorms to develop.
Yeah, that stark contrast between the two air masses. And so the dry air, it is denser, it's heavier. So that means that humid air is pushed to the top. That's that lift. So again, thunderstorms will be developing right along and ahead of that dry line later on today. And it's expansive. That zone stretches from the border all the way through the panhandles and all the way up into portions of Kansas, Missouri. But what's so fascinating, as you can see, Britta, we've got a couple areas today that we're watching. So it's not just the central and southern plains that is kind of stealing the show, if you will, but we've got the Gulf Coast region and also into the Carolinas.
Yeah, I mean, we have 3 spots to watch as we go into the afternoon, so it's going to be very scattered across the country. Let's focus in on kind of the central plains setup, though, and the dry line and how that progresses. It's what we call diurnal. So everything happens in the afternoon and evening. Anytime you hear a forecaster or meteorologist talk about diurnal storms, they're talking about afternoon and evening thunderstorms, and you can set your clock to it. It's kind of like for all of you that are watching us from Florida, because I know we have a lot of viewers from Florida that join us around, you know, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning every day. You know how you can set your clock to your afternoon storms. Same deal. When we have a dry line moving through the southern plains, it's every afternoon and evening that the dry line is present. And as this moves through, we do have a setup where a lot of our thunderstorms will be elevated, meaning that they're going to grow really, really tall in the atmosphere because of the difference between the dry air and the moist air. And that, unfortunately, is a setup for hail. So you get these really big independent thunderstorms that can kind of feed off that daytime energy, and they tap into that cold air aloft, and you get massive hailstones. So usually easy bet, bigger than an egg.
Yeah, bigger than an egg. I know we're coming off the heels of Easter, and so I think a lot of people are thinking, okay, I know the size of that. Had a lot of eggs over the weekend. But you think about the fact that we could have, again, upwards of maybe, gosh, baseball size. We've seen that already over the weekend, maybe a little bit larger. Now, this is the part of the country, traditionally speaking, that we do have large hail. So it's not all that shocking, but it will do a number if you are not prepared, especially in terms of your vehicle and also your home. That's always a big issue.
Yes, I always joke back home they call it a dimple darling sale after hail goes through the car lot.
I like that. We have we called it a hail sale, so not quite as not
the
quite
difference
as cute.
between Texas and Kansas.
A dimple darling.
But there you go, dimple darling, hail sale, whatever you want to call it. But that's the culprit. So afternoon and evening we have around today, but again tomorrow the dry line sets up again, and so Wednesday afternoon and evening we'll have an instant replay on our hands.